sort of feel like the little boy at the feeding of the 5,000, where God took my poor 5 loaves and 2 fishes, and in places like South Korea, China, Kazakhstan, and now Africa, has just magnified that. Holistic mission work for me, with a development emphasis, started when I was a Harding student for a summer semester in 1965 that carried us to Japan and Korea. I had taken essentially an ag curriculum my first 2 years of college at Abilene Christian. In Korea, I met Dr. Sidney Allen, who was a veterinarian medical missionary. He and his father-in-law, the senior missionary to Korea, Haskell Cheshire, had started a program called Cows for Korea. That's where they brought dairy cattle, bred heifers from the U.S. into Korea to help start the dairy industry and get milk flowing to orphans and to gain accreditation for Korea Christian College. And then before leaving Korea, the missionaries invited me to consider coming back. And so the day after my senior year at Lipscomb, I hopped aboard a plane and headed for Korea. Sponsored by the Redwood City Church of Christ out in California. The California churches were getting behind this dairy development program, and these bred animals were shipped into Korea. A good bit of them were also purchased by individual Christians, youth groups in Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, especially California. Enough milk started to be producing where we had to help establish a milk cooperative for processing. That cooperative is today Korea's still largest processor of milk products. Back in South Korea, they called them the little milk can churches that were established with the growth of the dairy industry, because everywhere milk cans gathered to be taken to the co-op for processing, that's usually where a church was established. In my last year in Korea, an interesting thing happened in that I invited Janice Gatto to come to Korea for that summer because we started writing, and she came to the mission field to work for the summer. That was our summer of courtship. She returned to the U.S. in September of 1970. I returned by Christmas time, and we announced our engagement and were married in 1971. My wife and I continued to farm for about a dozen years, ending up farming mostly leased land, 1,200 acres, row cropping, livestock, and I did some traveling, raising funds from churches and sending the equipment and funds to Dr. Allen in Korea for advancement of that work. Later, we were invited into China at a time when no Westerner was being invited into the rural areas. As we got involved in that, we phased out our active farming operations and started a for-profit company called ADA Corp, American Dairy Agribusiness Corporation. That took us into China. The same took us into the Soviet Union and the former Soviet Union, and into North Korea. Constantly doing mission work as we had opportunity to be located on project sites. In China, I was privileged to be there when the underground church was made known, and it was a thrill to be able to contact these underground Christians in China, including ethnic Koreans. Our work with Healing Hands International, or what we call HHI, began in February of 1998. Starting the agricultural division, getting involved in making assessments in Honduras, and then following up with the longer-term agricultural reconstruction of Honduras, sort of got us plugged in rather quickly with our work with Healing Hands. Biosustainable gardening and livestock raising has been an anchor of that. The needs have carried me into Africa, Central America, the tsunami Indian Basin area, teaching the brethren, their suffering neighbors, how to set up these small plot gardens in order to start producing some food year-round. It's a great deal of pleasure to look back and see how God has used my meager resources and projected them into something better, much bigger and much better beyond me in the growth of His kingdom.